4 additional spaces in order to fulfill the goal of the rec department or to continue to expand. I want to make sure that we're over the next few months, we're advocating for the right number of spaces indoors and outdoors.
Okay. All right, I got that down. My quick question is, which I haven't been back on registering. I was gonna register 2 kids for summer camp, and but then I held off, and I got to get back in. So are the 2-week specialty camps, are they listed separately in a separate section in the program? Okay.
Yes, they all have their own, like tennis is its own
Okay.
activity, dance
And
camp.
And there's everything, the requirements, age limits and all that stuff is all in there.
Correct.
Very
You-
good, because I have to do that too.
You can do it all through the website, the signups.
I'll see how it goes this time. Is it better than last year?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I will try it. I'll let you know, because I've never had a great amount of success sometimes with that website.
I know.
Anyway, that part of it is probably me, but anyway. Okay, facilities update.
Is Ken on here?
Yep, I'm here.
Why don't you give it, Ken?
Okay. So this is my first time giving this little report. I just want to say hi to everybody. I don't really have met, I guess I've met everyone for the most part. So I guess since March, we've been going pretty strong with getting everything ready for the sports, all the fields, making sure that everything is, presentable for games, whether it's soccer, whether it's softball, baseball. So that's what we've been hitting on most this spring. And as the spring has gone further, we've been hitting on all of our recreation facility sites. We've been taking care of every park that we have and making sure that it's presented, in a nice manner, that everything is safe and great for the kids. So we've been pretty busy doing that. We also have quite a few tournaments that we've been prepping for now. We have softball, we have baseball, so we've been getting the fields prepared for those organizations. And we have Splash and Dash coming up, so the next thing we'll be doing is getting the beach all prepared and prepped for that. And for the most part, as it transitions from spring to summer, it's just an ongoing field maintenance and making sure that everything is safe and beautiful fields. That's one of our things. The guys and I really, really want to make sure that all the fields are beautiful and in great shape. So we've been busy and we're going to stay busy for the rest of the summer. It's just great working on the fields and great working with the guys. Everyone is getting along great. We're doing good.
All right, Splash and Dash, when is the date on that, please?
June
What's
June.
that?
June 11th. So
Oh.
that a program run by New London Rec. They rent Mohegan Park for that. And they
Okay,
bring a lot of their own staff and volunteers.
okay,
We just provide the beach for them and get the beach ready for that piece, but they really administer the timing, the whole event. But June 11th, I'll be down there with some lifeguards, and then they bring a ton of lifeguards also for the swimming part of it's like a duathlon for those of you that don't know. The kids run and then they swim, and it's races throughout like the region.
do they run up in Mohegan Park also?
Yes,
Okay, so really the whole event, even though it's sponsored by New London Rec, takes place in Norwich.
correct. They
Now-
run it in a lot of different towns.
Is this
They
like
would
the
like, they
town
bring
one?
ability insurance timers, and they pay everybody. And they use the Mohegan Park.
Okay,
Now, Cheryl, is this like the Triple Crown that they used to do?
Yes.
Okay.
all right, under facilities, Armstrong Tennis Courts. Well, I'll get to that. Well, they just look like they're growing grass. I know there used to be clay courts, and I know we're not trying to get grass courts. So what is the situation with that?
I don't know if Tara, you want to talk? I know they were on pause by I think the city council paused the project, so if anyone else has any knowledge.
The project's just on pause.
For how long, or what's the reason it's on pause?
We don't have a time frame.
Okay,
I'd like to say something about the Armstrong tennis courts. I know we're on pause. Is this a time? I know the Historical Society in Norwich has a lot of money. Usually they put it into projects. Isn't this a historical value to Norwich that maybe we could reach out to some other avenues to gain funds for this project? Or is that just way off base?
So I'll give you kind of the backstory. So the funds are there. So through the capital budget of the city over probably the past 2 or 3 years, money has been put aside to do this project. So I think the first allocation was around 250,000, and then 100,000, and then there was money through the American Rescue money put aside, and then in this latest ARP proposal, there is an additional allocation to go towards the project. I think the overall problem that has lied, and I'm being on the council, we've had several different times where individuals over the last several months have come to council meetings confused as to whether the project is a 4-court project or a 6-court project. There were some concerns because if it was to be a 6-court project, the playground being there and expansion possibly of the playground. So part of the reason it's on pause is we don't want to be in the position where we put it out to bid, we start construction, and not everybody is on the same page as far as the vision of the project. So I don't think it's like an indefinite pause. It's just to make sure that before we put all this information out and we start to do work on conceptual designing, all of those things, everybody's speaking the same language. I know we had the NFA tennis coach come to the city council meeting twice, and we have had several parents come to the city council because they wanted 6 courts versus 4 courts. So part of it is just to make sure that we're all on the same language. I know the tennis committee, their endorsement was for 4 courts. So we just want to make sure that the project that we do is what we're going to do before we start spending money, because some of those funds, once we start spending them, it becomes a costly fix if we've got to fix it once we start the project. So I think it's just they're having the conversations now to make sure we're doing the right thing, and then we'll move forward after that.
How about how if they made 5 courts and then 1 clay court to restore the historical value of Armstrong courts, and had flowers around them and maintained 1 clay court for historical value that maybe was open on Sundays, and it could become a tourist attraction for the city of Norwich instead of just getting rid of the clay and forgetting. I mean, I'm not sure if that's possible, but just another idea since we're on hold to maybe look at the historical value, the book that was written about it. I mean,
yeah, and I think those are some of the things, you know, those suggestions could be taken up by the tennis ad hoc committee as to recommendations on things of that sort. I think the concern is that if they're going to go to 6 courts, it would be because it would be for a competition level for NFA. When they have it, they're going to have 6 courts that are the same material for and that one's not a competitive disadvantage. So I think that's the other part to this, but I think it's having the larger conversation as to the overall direction of the project. It's a good time. I know Fred is on the tennis committee, and that's something that they can have a conversation with. The other good part is they have an individual, Roy Wentworth, who is the athletic director at NFA, is, I believe, a member of the tennis committee as well. So he's another person to reach out to, but part of it is we want to make sure everybody's speaking the same language. And the council, because this is not a cheap project, wants to make sure that when we say, since we've already approved most of the funding, we don't sign off on something and it's not what the committee nor the community truly wanted for the project. So we just want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Does NFA have free use of the facility or do they get charged?
They don't even use the tennis. There's no tennis courts up there right now.
No, in the past.
In the
Great.
past, I mean, I think and Cheryl, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think they had access to use them for when they had their home meets and whatnot. And they, just like with Dickerman Field and whatnot, they'd pay a small maintenance fee. But I think based off of the way the land was deeded to the city, they have somewhat of a preference on the use of some of the facilities.
There's no,
Are there-
there's no charge, no facility charge, Jeff, no rental fee.
Is there
Have they
fund?
donated any money to the
Say that
project?
again, Jeff.
Have they donated any money to the project?
As of at the moment, no.
No.
Is there total funds for 6 courts?
Right now, we funded the project at 4. I believe
Because that was the recommendation of the ad hoc tennis committee.
that's the direction when we started the project, that it was originally 4. And so that's where we had started this project at. And then miraculously over the last several months or more, we've had people continuously ask about 6. So we just want to make sure that everybody's talking the same language. The tennis committee, they're still thinking 4, but we want to make sure that we do the right thing because this is also taxpayer money. So we want to make sure that everybody's speaking the same language.
Well, just a comment, it would be my thinking that the ad hoc committee has been working and looking into this for 2 years. And they came up with a recommendation of 4 courts. And all of a sudden, in the last few months, we have a monkey wrench thrown in here, a couple of people coming up advocating for 6. But they haven't done any of the research or investigation or anything in terms of what the ad hoc tennis committee has done. So personally, I would value the committee's recommendation over a couple of people's wants. Yeah, I want a lot of things too, but that doesn't necessarily make it out that it's the best thing, and I believe, and I could be wrong, hasn't NFA Tennis been just using 4 courts?
Well, that's because that's the only thing that we have in the city. The ones with four courts, that's all that's in the city for them to use. Most facilities. So that's the other thing.
And their tennis season is what, 6 weeks?
I couldn't answer that question for you.
That's probably about 6 weeks. So then my thing is, I hope the council moves on this in one way or another swiftly. It's only going to get more expensive the longer we wait to put tennis courts in. And we have a tennis community within Norwich that would like to use those courts. So the delay, is a little frustrating, I would say. And that's my 2 cents on that.
Just for information, Fred and I did contact the contractor. We can do 4 now, and you can add phase 2 on once we get the funding. So we called them, we had conversations. Is this possible? Pour in the slabs. And so just for information, you can do phase 1. They can do like this buffer zone and then do once we get the funding, if that's whoever's going to fund it, you could add the 2. That
Correct.
Playground can be removed by Public Works. I'm not advocating either way, but just Public Works can take their big diggers, pull that thing out. It's not a cost to remove externally. It's an internal labor cost. And maybe the parks crew can assist and, move those pieces. It's not saying that's the plan, but I think I heard that was a holdup. It was too costly to move the playground. Fred, I don't think Fred's allowed to speak right now, but he has even more information if you guys want to ask him about it.
I wouldn't mind Fred speaking.
No, me neither.
Okay, I'm not sure what you want to know that you haven't already discussed.
No.
The tennis season is probably 6 to 8 weeks long. I can't tell you how frustrated the ad hoc committee is based on the fact that we thought this project was ready to pull the trigger on it, and now we're not really sure what's going on. It's extremely frustrating. We put in a lot of time and effort. I've been to a lot of different courts. We've contracted 2 or 3 different contractors, contacted contractors, and we've got the company to do it is the company that's doing the US Open tennis courts.
Wow.
So it's a big deal, and the contractor has told us the longer we wait, the costs are going up week by week. I already presented in front of the city council last Monday, and I don't know what to say.
A quick question. I think I asked this before, and I think I know the answer, but my thing was the newer courts also going to be able to accommodate pickleball?
That is an issue. We haven't come to a conclusion on that. The Norwich tennis men's coach said that he would prefer not to have that because the kids call their own lines. It's one of the few sports where the kids call their own lines and are responsible for that. And it's competitive tennis. So those lines can be very confusing, especially at the service line. So we've toyed with the idea of maybe doing dotted lines. We've also decided most definitely that we want to put pickleball lines down at the Stanton courts to
Okay.
appease those people who certainly deserve to be able to play pickleball on a structured court.
Okay, because I do notice sometimes when I'm driving past Stanton in the morning in the summer that there are people playing pickleball on Stanton courts.
Absolutely. They have to draw their own lines in chalk.
Okay. All right. So that's something we could do. I don't know. I think as a committee, does anybody else on the advisory board have any comments or anything on the tennis facilities at Armstrong? Well, I don't know, but I don't know if anyway, I don't know how to do this, but I'd like to see if there's consensus. I would like to support the ad hoc tennis committee and their recommendations that were given to the city council, and hopefully the city council will respect the work that they have done and move forward, because like Fred was just saying, the longer you wait, the more expensive it is. And if they've talked about a possibility of a phase 1 and a phase 2, maybe that would work. So I don't know how other people feel about that, but. All right. Moving on to Jenkins Park, Mechanic Street. Okay, I drove past that the other day, and that's also looks like it's on pause. And even though it looks like a basketball court, the beginnings of a basketball court have been dug out, which is totally needed over there. So what's happening there?
I can, Tara, I saw the email today, Tara, if you want me to talk or you want to.
Go ahead. I didn't see an email on it today.
Oh, the public JP said they're starting the paving of the court tomorrow. So it's moving forward, and they're going to start paving Thursday at 8:30 actually.
Okay. Now, are lights going to be up on that too?
Right now, that was not in the budget that wasn't in the budget.
Okay.
That's a CDBG funded, so we can, and there is some other funding for Jenkins that we could probably look to do that if it's needed.
Because Jenkins is lit, so on the far side, from the street, there's already poles there, correct?
Yes.
Can't light, I don't know, I'm not an electrician, but can lights be like from a pole, like to go on both sides? So you only have to put lights on the farthest side?
Yeah, they're gonna yes, they can put more panels, a couple more panels and aim it that way. That was what we were thinking. Use the same poles.
Okay. So you think that's gonna be done? Or is that gonna be able to be done? So
It's a bigger question we're doing the Parks Master Plan. We started that up, and in that we want Jenkins evaluated with the funding that was given by City Council. We want that park to be looked at and then evaluated. What else needs to be there with the 100 and so thousand, and talk to the community and do some surveys and then, get some dollar figures of what we want to do. So,
So it needs to be, the Jenkins Park needs to be evaluated based on the funding available?
correct. There is funding given from ARPA round one for that whole area. And Tara, you can talk a little more. You might know.
No, I
Um,
just want to correct, it's not being evaluated based on the funding available. As
Okay,
part of the master parks plan, all of the spaces will be evaluated regardless of what money is or isn't there, so that we have a plan moving forward and can work to fund the recommendations over time.
I think the bigger part here is within the request for the ARPA 1 and I will say ARPA 2 is that there be a community engaged conversation as to what a community wants to see, because many of these parks are in neighborhoods, and one of the goals of ARPA dollars are to beautify and pretty much resurrect some of these neighborhoods. So having that conversation as to what's put in those neighborhoods is important, because it could result in more traffic in a neighborhood, different groups of individuals utilizing the facilities in those neighborhoods, whether it's a playground, a basketball court, a picnic area, anything. So part of the request from the city council, and I will say I was one of the main members leading this charge, is to have community input, because these aren't small dollars that are going to be used to upgrade all of these parks. But it's something that's long lasting, that's going to either improve the neighborhood, and we want to make sure that they're going to utilize it and people in town are going to utilize it.
okay. So none of the ARPA 1 money has been used yet? Am I correct with that?
Are you
Um,
asking
this-
specifically about Jenkins?
For the rec facilities, yes, and Jenkins, yes.
So for Jenkins, no, it's not been used yet, but for rec overall, there has been money used.
Are you talking, Julie, are you talking more like facility upgrades? So like the tennis courts, Jenkins Park, things like that, playgrounds? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
But obviously, I'm guessing that it hasn't been used unless you guys have already done the community input surveys, which you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. Have they been done?
Community input will be part of the master park plan process.
Oh, okay. Can you give me a little information on when that's going to start or the duration of it, this master plan?
It hasn't, I don't even think that it's, or Cheryl, I don't know if you know otherwise, I don't think it's even been put up by Bob Castronova yet. I think they're still working on the request for qualifications.
Okay. Wow. All right. Okay. It's just that I'm always a kind of impatient. I like things getting done, move along and get the job done.
I think
It seems like this is going to drag out an awful long time.
well, I will say that the big issue with when it comes to a lot of the funds that they're discussing is they don't have to be expended until 2024. So this is these dollars were given to us, and it had a 2 to 3 year period. So they have to be encumbered by December 31st of 2024. And so making sure that we do the right thing when it comes to these projects is important, because some of these projects, they also may interconnect with water supply. They may interconnect with traffic patterns, and all of those things are important that we're looking at as a whole. So, not just the recreation projects, but I will tell you, public work projects and everything else, there are large conversations going on because they have huge impacts as to the overall lay of the land in Norwich, both from an economic standpoint and a recreational standpoint. And so there are multiple components. The other thing, and Tara can correct me if I'm wrong, is there are very stringent rules and regulations that have to be followed by when they use these federal dollars. So everybody is making sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed.
Okay. All right. On to 4C, the ad hoc tennis committee appointments and extensions. I pulled out my notes, and also Fred has contacted me and we've spoken. This committee is actually an ad hoc committee of this board.
Right.
We started it, I remember it had to be before COVID, because I remember sitting at the up in the rec department,
Correct.
and we were talking about this issue, the tennis issue, and we thought it best, there were people who were interested, and instead of taking it on ourselves as the rec advisory board, that we would develop a committee, and people applied to it, and we, it was, where's my notes on that? It was for 2 years. The purpose to look into the needs, and some of this they have done. And it was, they said after 24 months, 2 years, which was back in January, they can request an extension. So we did talk about it in January, but honestly, I don't really remember. It's in our minutes,
So,
but we never brought it to a vote, like made a motion to have them extend their committee and the people who were interested to remain on it.
So I just want to give you some other context. What happened back in January was we had the conversation because they were going to be up in February of this year, where then I went back to the city council, and during our February, I think our second meeting in February, the city council approved the ad hoc, because they have to approve, even though it's essentially a subcommittee of the rec advisory, any ad hoc committee or committee period has to be approved by the city council. The city council approved for the committee to do their work for an additional 2 years. So they have until 2024, I think it is, or 2024, and to complete their work in February. There is a resolution. However, it is up to the rec advisory committee to appoint the members of the committee. So the city council's reappoint committee never did the interviews or appointed the individuals. We did, like you said, Julie, when just before COVID, at the rec office, before we went out, we appointed these individuals to be a part of it. So really all we need is a motion to reappoint the current members that are on the rec advisory, and a motion to appoint the additional new member to the committee to continue doing their work.
Okay.
And I'll make,
Can I have a motion to extend the ad hoc tennis committee with the current members of Roy Wentworth, Martha Healy, Aaron Chandler, and Fred Phelps to that ad hoc committee?
so moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. I would also like a motion to appoint Frank Frattoni as their 5th and new member to that committee.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Now, just a question. Do I need to write a formal notification to the city council and the city clerk to accept this?
So I would say write the notification that during to the city clerk, who will get it to the city council.
Okay,
Just a communication that during our May
Yeah,
25th meeting,
Yeah.
the members of the rec advisory committee voted to continue these individuals for a term, for the term of the rec advisory committee, which I think
Yeah.
their term is until February of 2024.
got it. And excuse me, can I email it? I don't have to like write a letter and mail it there or take it down there or anything like that, do I?
I would say send her an email, and if she wants a formal signature on a notice, she'll let you know.
Okay. All right, I will do that. All right, we got that. All right, where am I? Old business. Well, we kind of talked about this a little bit already. The ARPA update. Is there any other information other than that there's, in terms of the rec department, we're waiting on this master plan and community input to use ARPA money?
The only other thing that I would add is that we did have our RFP. So some of the money that was allocated basically to the rec department under schools as a community center had the intention of having a grant process for other area agencies in Norwich. So we did have that RFP process. We had 4 applicants. So I am in process of working with finance on the contracting part to award some money.
I don't quite understand. I'm not exactly sure I understand that.
So,
So there was an initiative of using the schools as community centers. And money is being used towards that?
So it wasn't fully, I think it's a little I'll tell you as an outside person coming in, the whole schools as community center was a little misleading. When you break that down, there are intentions in that pot of money that basically just include how are we supporting the youth in after school programs? How are we supporting families in COVID recovery? It's a little bit broader than how it was coined. And Darrell, you may have more information on how it ended up all lumped under that title.
so what happened back last fall when we had the discussions of how to spend many of these ARPA dollars, and we were looking at from an after school perspective, but also the fact of, I know back then we were even talking of space limitations. So the fact that, you know, if Cheryl can only do a basketball program at Teachers in Kelly, it may not be feasible for a family that may live in the Waquanic section of town to make it to those facilities for programs. So part of it is I know they already use certain outside vendors. We have other agencies in the community that are providing recreational opportunities, and looking at the overall costs, families struggling during COVID. Our goal was, since we don't have a centralized community center, to utilize space for schools, such as our schools, elementary, middle, to provide programs. And it could be anything from dance, arts and crafts. It didn't just have to be sports. Part of that was, and we left it broad as a council because one, we're not in the business of dictating exactly how every single dollar is spent to the T. But part of the goal was for this to be used where outside organizations that have been partnering with the city to provide some of the services that, you know, we are not able to take on, so such as lacrosse and other different organizations, the opportunity to get scholarship money or whatever assistance to help some of these families participate in some of the programs, since they have their programs across the city. And so knowing that there, you know, at the beginning of the school year, there were still issues and still are of coordinating space within schools and whatnot. One of the goals we still had within that money was to get kids out and about and playing, with some of our community partners assisting in that, because we know the rec staff can't do all of the programs and all their vendors can't handle every single program. So that's why we allotted $800,000 to help with some of those things. So it could be anything from registration costs all the way down to a rental of a space, to having to possibly pay staff. So what Tara's talking about is she put out the first round of some of those grants to help some of those organizations that provide services to our youth in the community. And then I'll also say the city council a week ago voted to utilize $100,000 out of that money towards kids doing summer camp activities this year.
At Norwich Rec or other camps?
Norwich Rec.
Okay. All right,
Within, yes.
okay. Just out of, I'm gonna throw it out here, and I think I ask it at every meeting we have. What's up with the splash pad?
That's part of the process when they do the master park plan.
Oh, God, okay.
So again, we want to make sure that whenever we put it, wherever we put it, it has, it's the right space, because we're also talking that, again, when I was talking water supply, that's one of those situations. So do we have to dig up the road and things of that sort to make sure we have the right water supply?
Okay, and who is doing this master plan, just out of curiosity? Who's looking into this and like weeding through all this and coming up with this big master plan? Is anyone working on it?
We'll hire a company. We're gonna hire a company to do that.
Okay. And do you have a timeline on that by any chance?
I'm not aware of,
The council or taking a look at that, the city council looking at that, or?
I mean, we wouldn't be in charge of the master park plan. I mean, they would submit it once.
No. Well, that's what Tara just said, that they're gonna hire a company.
So any bidding and RFPs and all the RFQs, all of that stuff goes through the purchasing department. The city council doesn't initiate the bidding process and all of those things. It's overall, it's the city process in order to get a contract with any project in the city.
Okay, thanks. Vacancy update?
we've hired a rec maintainer that is slated to hopefully start June 13th. If I got that date right. And then we've hired the administrative specialist who will start June 6th.
What's an administrative specialist, please?
That's the front desk position that Cassidy is in right now.
Is that gonna be full-time?
Yes.
Oh, great. Any other staff going to the rec department?
No, that not outside the summer hires that Cheryl's already talked about.
Okay. So and I've spoken to the city council about this, the rec department is understaffed. Okay, I'm grateful because, oh my God, I think since 2018, we've been asking for an administrative specialist. And then we got one part-time and now finally full-time. So I'm grateful for that. The rec maintainer, I'm assuming, is under Kevin, will be a person to work the properties and facilities and parks and so on and so forth. What about like in terms of programming? We have 2 people doing programming for a city the size of Norwich, and it's not enough. So has any thought been put into that?
Well, I think that's part of Darrell's point, and it's the same thing that I have been asking since I started, where we need to, you don't just say we need somebody to do this. Where is the data that supports that? Where is the information that supports those decisions? So part of mapping out, okay, this is the programs we're running, this is how many people that we can take, this is the enrollment numbers and these are the people on the wait list. That's part of why I think that Darrell's asking for that information. And I have also, said the same thing to Cheryl. We need to be able to provide data and information to support asks.
Oh my God. Okay,
Well, and what I will say, and has nothing just to do with the rec department, but this is many city agencies, is moving forward is the effectiveness of how we operate as a city in a lot of departments. So, it's everything from customer service to the services provided, to the individuals giving the services, us looking at how we pretty much deploy individuals into the different departments. So it's us stepping back as a council with the city manager, with the goals that the council has set to make sure that the priorities of not only the citizens and taxpayers are being taken care of, but that from a operational standpoint, we're doing what's in the best interest for the city. So I think the other part for us looking at, and why I always ask, I ask 1,000 questions, is to make sure that I can't advocate for something if we don't have all of the information in order to do it. The second part to that is, with us making hard decisions as city council members, it's also us looking at what options are out there. So kind of like we're talking about with projects and all these other things, it's what are the options out there? What are the pros and cons of all of these things? So as we talk about adding staff to the rec department, one of the things that, we had thought about in the fall when we did the original ask for the money for community centers, was, putting money in that allocation for program assistance. As of right now, we've taken a step back from that and we're looking at things from a bigger standpoint. So I think for us, it's making sure that whatever decision we make, one, we can sustain, because I'm not going to be in the position where this year we add an individual to the rec department, next year's budget doesn't support it, and we're trying to figure out how to fund it, and then they're back to square one where we've been several times of reduction of staff. So I think it's us having these larger conversations as a council with the city manager and strategic planning as to how we operate everything, not just the rec department, but all departments together.
all right. Budget for next year, 2023, 22, 23. Does anyone have can anyone give me any information? When is this? So this would be something I think maybe the rec advisory, I understand you're looking for data and we would push for Daryl, you worked for the rec department in the summer. You could see what was happening in terms of, they get their seasonal staff, but for year round, it just is understaffed. So we can work on that and put that in for, is that what you're telling me in terms of the budget for 2022, 23?
Well, I think for that, but while the next fiscal year happens, and even now, moving forward, you have the data to kind of back it up. I know they do it with already some of it, but having those numbers is important. The other thing is to look at what community partners you use, what people you use as vendors. All of those things I think are important to look at the bigger picture. One of the things that I've talked about, is looking at what other towns do. So, I give the biggest example and the reason why I put money towards summer camp is for the amount of money that kids have to pay or families have to pay for kids to go to camp, looking at how the city possibly helps with some of those costs by putting money towards a line item for seasonal employees. So looking at how we make things work so that the residents can benefit, but also so that it's a less of a burden too on Cheryl and her staff when they're advertising for some of these programs. I think that's the bigger picture that we're looking at.
Okay. And when does the budget process for that year start? In October?
So they will start, they will start probably I want to say last year he started preliminary discussions or creations of budgets. I want to say was probably October. One of the things that, you know, we will probably consider as a council is us doing more workshop-based things, which is something that citizens have asked for us to do. Working with the city manager before he finalizes his budget, because that's his job. And within the charter, it's his job to craft the budget, but having some conversations so that he knows the kind of a vision of what the council is looking for. The tough part, I will tell you, is that every 2 years, there's an election. So what happens is he starts the budget process, and going into December, like what happened this year, you get almost an entirely new council. So you think about it, this year, it was Grant, Tracy, Swanjit, who are all new members to the council, which means priority shift, goals are changed. So the part, and so you don't know exactly what direction the council wants to go in as far as the budget that giving year. So he starts the process with a lot of these departments, and then we get sworn in December of this past year, and the term starts. And by the time we're up to speed as far as everything going on, if you're new members, we're already in budget season. So that's the other tough part of this, is figuring out a method so that those that are making the decisions have the information, and that's our tricky part.
Okay, yeah, I understand that now.
As you look at it, this rec advisory committee has will have 4 new members on it just
Right.
along this year.
Yeah. Okay. But in the past, we've been pretty consistent in terms of membership up until this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for years before. So, okay. Discussion and public, okay, about the maintenance. We've all been talking about this. I'm sure we've been to the city council. People have emailed the city council. So our, I believe I don't know if there's any other discussion. I know some people have written to the city council, and I am not in agreement. I think at our special meeting, I was told I couldn't take a vote, but there was a consensus pretty much supporting the maintenance crew remaining under the rec department. So I don't know if it's possible, but maybe we should make it formal in terms of taking actually a vote, a motion and a vote on it. Because Daryl, you told me I couldn't do it last time, correct?
Correct.
So we can do it this time.
Mhm.
Okay. So, I mean, like I said, we've discussed this, we've emailed and all kinds of things. So is there a motion? I don't even know if I can make a motion. Can I make a motion as chair?
You can.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that the Norwich Rec Advisory Board position is that the current maintenance crew remain under the rec and not be moved to Public Works. Can I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
And 1 abstain. Okay, that's kind of what went down the last time anyway. So now it's official. All right, thank you. Well, we moved public comment. So any other business? Oh, gosh. Okay, seeing none, our next meeting is scheduled for July 20th at 6 p.m. Are we gonna, well, I guess Zoom is easier, but it is what it is. So I do like keeping any meeting I run under an hour, and is now 6:59, so we are exactly at 1 hour. If there isn't anything else, any other business or comments or discussions? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? I'll second it. Okay, someone seconded, I guess. Okay, Daryl, congratulations on your new adventure.
Thank you.
Are you a
Thank-
glutton for punishment? I mean, you want to go bigger? Yeah, huh?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm sure you'll do a great job, but that means you have to get off the city council, right?
Yes.
Oh, then you'll be missed. So I won't vote for you then. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and I'll see you in July, if
All
not before somewhere.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.